Happy New Year, my people. Welcome to 2019. Now, I know every year we make resolutions when it comes to the new year. Your resolution might be to make more money. Your resolution might be to quit smoking. Your resolution might be to quit drinking. Your resolution might be to spend more time with family, with kids. Your resolution might be to become more healthy. But at the end of the day, a resolution is good, but a revolution is better. Now, Dr. Martin Luther King said a revolt is a movement that changes the hearts and the minds of the people. But he said a revolution is a movement that changes the hearts and minds of the people and the institutions that affect the people. So resolutions is about the individual, but the revolution is about the institutions. It's about the communities at whole. So let's not think about ourselves coming into 2019. Let's think about the collective and how we can all benefit. Now, I know some of my brothers might say, man, Witherspoon, what you talking about? I'm about my money. I'm going to get my money in 2019. But let me tell you something, brother. You don't have no money. You could put 30 white boys in the room, the 30 richest white men in this country, and they have more wealth than all 42 million African Americans combined. So forget all that. I'm not trying to hear that. We need a revolution. When the top 1% of the richest people in this world have more wealth than the bottom 99% of the population, we need a revolution. And when Donald Trump has more wealth than any African American, 42 African Americans, Donald Trump has more wealth than any African American besides Robert Smith, who's worth $4.4 billion in this nation, we need a revolution.
He's got more than Michael Jordan.
Let me tell you, black folks, especially your sisters, Oprah Winfrey does not have more money than Donald Trump. According to the Forbes, she has $2.9 billion. Donald Trump has $3.1 billion. So you know racism and sexism is alive and well when you have a sharp woman like that and she still doesn't have more money than this idiot Donald Trump. So we're going to name 5 revolutions that need to happen right now, today. That we have to impeach Donald Trump right now, today. That's the #1 revolution. And why do you need to impeach Donald Trump? For colluding with the Russians? I'm not even talking about that. Why do we need to impeach Donald Trump for being a racist? I'm not even talking about that. Why do we need to impeach Donald Trump for being sexist? I'm not even talking about that. We need to impeach Donald Trump for being a Negro. Damn! He does not like to read. That's definitely a Negro. He does not come to work. That's a Negro. When he comes to work, he shows up to work unprepared. That's a Negro. Damn! He's not only on Twitter, but he's on Twitter talking about Michael Jordan is better than LeBron James. Hell, am I in the barbershop or are we talking about somebody who's running the country? He hangs around with Kanye West, that's definitely a Negro. He hangs around with Kim Kardashian, that is definitely a Negro. He has beef with Jay-Z, that's definitely a Negro. He lies about how much money he has, that is definitely a Negro. What white person you know that's gonna gold-plate the toilet? He has gold-plated elevators, gold-plated living rooms and bedrooms. Hell, are we talking about Master P or are we talking about our president? He commits fraud, that's definitely a Negro. He's under investigation by the FBI, that's definitely a Negro. He lies on his taxes, that's definitely a Negro. I'm just about it. His homeboys are snitching on him, that's definitely a Negro. And he's calling his partners rats. Now that is not a Negro, I don't know what is. And so since the Negro never had the right to vote, how the hell can a Negro be president? Impeach him. Revolution #4 is universal pre-K for every child. Now this is something that we should have been had as a nation. Almost all the industrialized nations provide free pre-K. In the United States of America, we was the first country to provide primary education for all their children. Most all industrialized nations have pre-K that is free for the populace. But we more concerned about the baby in the womb, but after the baby comes out the womb, we don't do anything for them. But this nation has to have free pre-K, just like you have free public school education. 0 through 5 are the primary development years of a child's brain. If the child doesn't get it by then, they most likely not going to get it. That's why the 3rd grade reading and math scores are so poor in our country. And as we know, prisons are built on 3rd grade reading and math scores, because if they don't get it by the 3rd grade, they're probably not going to get it. And their trajectory is going into prison. And once they get into prison, they never really get out of this vicious cycle. So we have to have universal pre-K. And guess what, sisters? It helps the ladies. Because at the same time, a lot of women can't go back to school and get continual education because they don't have affordable daycare. They don't have a place to keep their children that's safe and that their children can learn. It's pre-K for every child born in this nation will make America an even greater country, and it will put us on a trajectory to be the best country in this world when it comes to education. Days are over when you could drop out of high school, get a job at Ford, GM, RJ Reynolds, get a job in the steel mill, make a middle-class income, buy a house, 2 cars, have a wife, 2.5 kids. Now, if an African American drops out of school, they're more likely to be incarcerated than they are employed. You have to have a college education in order to be successful. And what made this nation so great is the middle class. But right now you have a shrinking middle class. Every country has the wealthy. Every country has the poor. The United States has been great because we value the middle class. Number 3 is similar to number 4, but it's universal college education. Free college education for every American citizen. If we make college education free, we will see our citizens having more opportunity. We will see home ownership going up. We will see crime going down. And we will see more people with jobs. Okay. Revolution number 2. Okay. It's gonna be quick, but revolution number 1 gonna be crazy. Revolution number 2 is end the military-industrial complex. Now, there's a such thing as military metaphysics, and that's basically the media makes you think that the military is so important. If we don't have a military, we're gonna be taken over by Japanese or ISIS or the Taliban or Iraq or Saddam Hussein or Rocket Man or whoever. Okay? But that's not going to happen. We have guided missiles and misguided men. We have smart bombs and dumb people. Who said that? Martin Luther King Jr. My favorite, Viet Cong ain't never called me no nigga. Who said that? Muhammad Ali. So African Americans, we have historically been one of the fiercest opponents of international war. That's why it hurts my heart to look at TV and see some of these people, especially African Americans, so hawkish, so pro-war. That has been us because African Americans historically, we have been victims of American military power. Now, I got a call from a good friend the other day. I have known this brother since high school. And he asked me, what's going on with Syria? Why are we pulling out of Syria? Aren't we going to endanger the Kurds? I said, look, man, first of all, let's not even talk about Syria. African Americans, we're happy anytime there's a troop reduction and a troop pullout. Stop watching so much TV and read more books if you want a New Year's resolution. Because at the end of the day, if I would have asked you about Syria 2 or 3 months ago, you would have said, my favorite cereal is Apple Jacks.
Silly rabbit.
A rabbit can dream, can't he?
And when you talk about the military-industrial complex, it's also sexist. The military-industrial complex is a job creator, but it's a job creator for males. Now, what if we diverted some of that money into healthcare? That's a job creator for females? What if we diverted that money into early education? That's job creation for females and business opportunities for females for them to get contracts through Health and Human Services or through the Department of Education. But we won't do that. So we keep on building these enemies up, whether it's Iraq, and we said we would pull out of Iraq, and we still have 20,000 troops there right now. Okay? So when people say, like Trump, we're going to pull out of Syria, I believe it when I see it because I thought we was out of Iraq. But like I said, we still have 20,000 troops. And the number one revolution, and don't get mad at me, y'all, when I say this, but the number one revolution is reparations.
Oh, no, he didn't. Right corner side pocket.
And when I say reparations, I'm talking about reparations for African Americans who are descendants of the slave trade. Now, there's been reparations, and people talk about reparations all the time. I saw a journalist say we need to pay reparations back to Iraq for us bombing and destroying Iraq. Even the Marshall Plan after World War II, that was a form of reparations. In the 1950s, we paid $150 billion to rebuild Germany and different places in Europe. That was a form of reparations. We gave the Japanese reparations after World War II. Now, there was some talk and some momentum about reparations until Barack Obama came on the scene. And they used to ask him when he was running, what do you feel about reparations? And he said, I don't believe in reparations. And I understood where he was coming from because he had to win that election and he could not scare the white vote off. And I'm going to tell you, Barack Obama is everything. Barack Obama is the most intellectual president I've ever seen in my lifetime. He's the best president I've ever seen in my lifetime. He's the only president in my lifetime that was not involved in a scandal. Barack Obama is everything. A role model, great for the African American community, a symbol of love and marriage. Barack Obama is everything except he's not a descendant of slaves. So you descendants of slaves, I'm talking to you when it comes to reparations. This is why we need reparations, because reparations is an economic stimulus package. Now let me tell you something, even though reparations just go to African Americans, everybody's gonna benefit from reparations. Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Michael Jordan, Nike, and there's plenty of other companies. But what I'm saying is we should have the support from the corporate sector to give the money towards reparations, because it will be an economic stimulus, it will be a boom, but also not just to individual African Americans. You have to have an African American Marshall Plan. You have to rebuild African American communities, African American schools, specifically from African Americans, because at the end of the day, reparations was promised. That's what 40 acres in the mirror was, even though it wasn't adequate, but it was a form of reparations. And for you people who don't believe me, God wants reparations. When the children of Israel came out of Egypt, all the Egyptians gave them their gold and their silver and their linen and their goods. And that was because the children of Israel built Egypt. So it's not only economically sound, it is a godly principle, and I think we need to further the discussion for reparations in the African American community. But there has to be more money put towards African American businesses. There has to be loans made available. There has to be opportunities given in order to advance the African American community. Just like under Maynard Jackson, he made a record number of millionaires. There are still doors that are closed to African Americans. There are doors that are closed to women. There are doors that are closed to everybody. And it takes a revolution to open those doors up. So it's not just about the individual. As the individual, you could be doing good with your resolution, but with a revolution, it is proven time and time again in history that you will go farther if certain doors that are open that have been closed. And the only way you can open those doors is not as an individual, but it has to be a revolution. Thank you guys for tuning in. It's been my pleasure. And remember, click, like, and subscribe.